Ausbiz Alternative Advisory and Allianz Retire Plus says retirees doing nothing to manage their investments has become a more serious issue than financial risks. In a white paper, it's come up with a 2-chapter retirement framework. Joining us to discuss that is Justine Marquet from Allianz Retire Plus. Justine, welcome back. Good to see you. So, well, look, I guess many of us have a set and forget mentality when it comes to super, and perhaps we defer to those default settings. Is that a danger, particularly as we approach retirement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's happening is people are hesitating to take action. What we're seeing is really not so much people fearing the volatility in markets, but fearing making a decision. They've got this sort of decision paralysis. Even well-resourced retirees delaying their decisions, underspending, defaulting to caution, which means leaving super more in accumulation instead of moving it into that tax-free pension retirement phase, or just drawing down on the minimum amount rather than taking out what they can actually afford to spend each year, and just generally living far more cautiously than they need to. So doing nothing is becoming this, one of the bigger risks in retirement.
And why is that? Is it fear of making the wrong decision, or simply not knowing what to do?
I think more fear of making the wrong decision. That's certainly what's coming out in this research in the 2-chapter retirement framework. The research is showing that people see retirement as 2 psychologically distinct chapters. So the first chapter is the retirement that you can see, that active, healthy, aspirational retirement full of plans. But then chapter 2 is that part of retirement that they can't clearly see, that's associated with uncertainty around health, longevity, outliving your money, loss of independence. And the problem is that uncertainty around that second chapter means that people are being more cautious in the first. So where the later years don't feel secure, people hold back more today. So we need to build in that confidence early.
You also say that advisors are taught to think about retirement spending in phases, but the clients don't do that. So how do they need to think about this?
Yeah, I think there's different discussions. So the spending is one thing, and people have different spending patterns, and people will often spend higher in early retirement, and then it will drop away, and then they might need more money again near the end of retirement for aged care costs. But we're talking about how people make decisions, how they think, which is different to the spending pattern, or even the activity pattern, which is, sort of the go-go, the go slow, and then the no-go that people talk about. This is really not thinking about retirement as one long journey when we're planning for it, but the fact that we're thinking about it in two segments, 2 phases, and we have this phase that we can imagine and we plan for that, but we're not planning for the part that we can't see, but that uncertainty hangs over us and restricts what we do in the early years, and really starts to impact the joy of our earlier retirement when we're most well and able to enjoy it.
Well, in fact, you go on to say that what's the most effective retirement strategies being securing those needs for later life, but doing it at an early stage, so therefore preserving growth and flexibility. That sounds easier said than done.
It does, I guess, but I think with these new retirement solutions that are available to us now, if we think about utilising them to overcome some of these things, generally people have 3 main concerns: this fear of irreversibility, that they can't change their mind, or that they'll have decision regret, and then there's this system complexity that they don't want to deal with or think about, and then this uncertainty around how long they'll live and what they'll need. So they want to default to full flexibility and optionality, even if it's costing them that initial confidence. But if we can utilise some of these lifetime income streams and front load the confidence, by planning for later and securing that long-term income for the part of retirement that we can't see, then we're able to have that confidence early and get the freedom to spend. Because we think about it, longevity risk isn't something that we can diversify away. So market risk, we'll use asset diversification, and we can build in, ways with growth assets to keep up with inflation and things like that. But with longevity risk, we can't diversify that away. It really needs structural protection. And so if we can cover essential income for life and guarantee the level of income that will be there, people will absolutely feel safer spending and investing their other money and making decisions today, enjoying their money today. So used properly, I don't think guaranteed income is really about returns and all of that kind of thing. It's really just a planning tool that turns uncertainty into confidence.
But Justine, I guess the greatest uncertainty, the greatest unknown, is how long you're going to live for. So how do you get over that and trying to plan for that? Because I dare say there is a lot of fear in that you're overspending or perhaps even underspending.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where these solutions come into play. The way we plan for that is by building in long-term lifetime income. And you can build it in for yourself or even have it revert back to your spouse. But by knowing that is there and is being taken care of and will always be paid, it's guaranteed, then the other things that are going on, the market volatility, that uncertainty around the long-term future, around how long we'll live, really gets lessened, significantly lessened, because we know that we can have that income later. We may have some age pension and things like that built in as well that we can fall back on. And that security then gives us the options to take bigger risks today around growth assets and things like that if we wish.
Well, I guess that underlines the importance of advice then in that area and not doing it yourself. You do need professional advice. And I guess particularly now too, even more so, Justine, particularly given those changes in the budget. I mean, is that of concern to your clients, to your super members, that that's made it even harder for them to plan?
I think it has. It's the uncertainty again, what will happen in the future. And the great thing about guaranteed contractual income, where a life insurer is contractually obliged to pay a particular amount of money, but for the rest of someone's life, is it doesn't matter how the laws change around that, whether they're taxation laws, super laws, or anything else. You've got this contractually non-correlated income that's just going to be paid to you for the rest of your life. But in terms of strategy, these announced changes do impact things. Retirees, there's a bunch of retirees and people planning for retirement who've intended to dispose of assets later in retirement, when their income drops off and they're in a better tax rate position and those kinds of things. So it does bring planning forward. It means that you need to build in some security that is resilient against those kinds of changes that will happen around the rules and regs. And certainly because you can have these solutions in your superannuation fund, which are very tax effective, tax-free environment when you're in pension phase, that tax impost that we see outside of super isn't as impactful. And in fact, I think that we'll see people bringing more assets into the superannuation environment because of these changes if they go through, despite, DIP 296 and 293 and all these other things that we talk about.